Hey guys, this is Kowsey from Team Dragon's Lair, and today we're going to be taking a look at the top 8 matchup for the Quarter 1 League Cup between Mia, who is piloting Turbo Lost Zone Box, against Fifi's Gardevoir EX. Currently, we'll have both deck lists flash up on the screen. You can pause the video if you'd like to take a closer look at these deck lists. But today we're going to be going through Game 3 of this top 8 match, and we'll be dissecting the matchup between Turbo Lost Zone Box and Gardevoir EX. And to help me out with that today, I'll be joined by Callum Walker.
Hey guys, my name's Callum. I've been a competitive Pokemon TCG player since on and off since I was about 13. This season was my first full season back as a master after COVID, and I brought home 2 top 16s at regionals across Australia, and I am a world's testing partner of Kowsey's.
Alrighty, let's jump straight into Game 3 of this top 8 matchup between Mia piloting Turbo Lost Zone Box on the left-hand side, leaving the right-hand side to be occupied by Fifi and Gardevoir EX. So, Walker, why don't you tell us a little bit about how this matchup's supposed to go and some of the deck choices that Gardevoir includes?
So Gardevoir is, Fifi's Gardevoir particularly is pretty teched for Lost Zone. He has both the Fluttermane and the Klefki in his deck list, which both of them serve a similar purpose in locking down Comfey's flower selecting ability, which stops the Lost Zone player from building a big Lost Zone and using their power spike cards like Mirage Gate and Lost Mine, which really let them play the game.
So in particular, this is why a lot of the Lost Zone players have moved to the Turbo variant, as Mia has done, because this deck opts to include 3 to 4 copies of PokéStop even, and the
Mhm.
3 copies of Lost Vacuum. And while this is a little strange, basically how the Lost Zone players have figured out how to still build up cards in the Lost Zone despite their Comfeys being unable to flower select, they actually just spin Pokestop and hit their own vacuum and then vacuum their own stop. Another
Mhm.
good hit that the Pokestop can grab is the Pokégear, and obviously you're really hoping that you don't hit the Colress off of the
Yeah,
Pokestop, but then you can use the
for
Pokégear
sure.
to then find the Colress to continue to get more into the Lost Zone. So as we can see these players setting up here, I do believe Fifi is going first and has opened the
Has
Clef
opened the
key.
Clef key, which is pretty good for him.
Yeah.
I'm gonna immediately stop Mia from using any of her flower selecting abilities.
He
And
launches the
unfortunately,
Hyper Aroma
unfortunately,
here.
yeah. Unfortunately, he's gonna whiff any sort of Ralts benching here, which is quite unfortunate for him. But Gardevoir's a pretty comebacky deck, so he should be able to manage it.
Well, the deck is resilient, and he's lucky enough that he's opened the Clef key to block Mia's abilities, right? And he's
Yes,
also
yes.
fortunate enough to be pretty confident that the Lost Zone player is not going to disrupt his hand on turn 2. In fact, obviously, most Lost Zone decks only play the Roxanne, so that would only
Roxanne.
ever come online after the 3 prizes. We do see that Mia was fortunate enough to open the Pokestop, which she spins, losing the Cram, but not that it matters with Klefki in the active. That little guys are not
Yep.
going to be spitting innocently,
No,
regardless of
no.
however many are in the Lost Zone, 4 or not. But we actually see Mia move the Iron Hands to the front of her deck here with this Nest Ball, which I very much like. The Iron Hands is pretty much in this list for Gardevoir,
Or
and
Gardevoir.
obviously it has uses into some other matchups as well, like the Mirror and a couple of others. But I really like this play from Mia to go Nest Ball for the Iron Hands. As we got a peek at her hand a little earlier on in this recording, we can see that she's holding quite a bit of energy. And so the fact
Mhm.
that Fifi's failed to bench Ralts, I think this is a really good heads-up play. She gets the attach banked on the Iron Hands. So now this is, in theory, 1 attach, 1 retreat away. And passes over to Fifi, who spins Pokestop with
Pokestop and
Gardevoir.
hits a Poffin. Hits a Poffin of Pokestop to start putting some Ralt into play, which is pretty massive. I can't see Fifi doing anything more than that if he doesn't get a Buddy Poffin off the Pokestop. So pretty fortunate, but sometimes those are the risks you got to take when you get a bad hand like this. Gonna see attached to a Ralts,
So by
and I
nest balling
believe
and
that was
benching
it.
the Iron Hands, I basically Mia has decided to low-key, like not super high-key, but sort of low-key put the Gardevoir player, Fifi in this case, on a clock. Because Mia can simply just manually attach to this Iron Hands. She was, again, pretty fortunate with this Pokestop to hit the Pokégear there. She did not mill any Colresses, and then she obviously fires this Pokégear and does, in fact, find the Colress. So this is kind of Lost Box's best shot into Gardevoir here. So, despite the fact that Mia got a little unlucky that Fifi opened the Clef Key, obviously the fact that he failed to bench the Ralts and Mia opened the Pokestop is quite helpful. And as we watch her fire this Colress here, we actually see in her hand that she's already holding the Vacuum, and she actually finds the second Pokestop here, which is exactly what you're hoping to hit as the Lost Zone player here. So she gets to build 2 in the Lost Zone here, and then she gets to vacuum her own Pokestop. And whilst you can't play more than 1 stadium a turn, there is no clause that says you can't use a stadium more than once a turn. So Mia lost vacuuming her own Pokestop here, gets to play the second Pokestop and spin again, hitting that
And hits
all-important Prime Catcher.
Prime Catcher is super important for Mia to have in hand here. It allows her to force this Clef Key out of the active, and she actually gets to choose what goes into the active. So my best guess is that she'll use the Prime Catcher to move something that's not named Clef Key into the active and start using flower selectings, get to 7 in the Lost Zone, and use a Mirage Gate to power up the Iron Hands to use an Amp You Very Much attack and start on really applying some pressure to this Gardevoir board.
So yes, absolutely. Now, Fifi's best play into this Iron Hands Amp You Very Much is actually a little tricky. Because whilst Gardevoir has the ability to do enough damage with attackers like Drifloon and Screamtail and with Bravery Charms to knock out Iron Hands, I believe Screamtail can be used. I might be slightly off. Okay, I can. Yeah, sweet. While Gardevoir can do this, Lost Box obviously has access to Sableye, who once you have 10 in the Lost Zone, starts to be able to spread 12 damage counters on the board. So obviously that makes it a little bit tricky to use these attackers that place damage counters on themselves. Fifi here we can see is found the TM Evo and managed to bench another Ralts and hit another Body Poffin by spinning the Pokestop. I wouldn't say it's ordinarily advised to spin the Pokestop as Gardevoir, but I think Fifi has absolutely made the correct call on this game state. Wouldn't you agree, Walker?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you just got to spin the Pokestop. There are some Gardevoir hands where you just got nothing, but you just, check if you get a really broken Pokestop that lets you play the game. And there's nothing wrong with that. Fifi's probably going to TM Evo into a couple Curliers here. Or he's actually declaring the Curlier, which I think is pretty good. He's going to go into this Gardevoir EX, and he smartly recognizes that there's not a lot in Mia's deck, rather, that can target down this Gardevoir EX. There's no Dark type attackers that can hit it for weakness. So it can kind of sit here pretty much unchecked. The only real downside here is that he does lose a refinement next turn, but with 2 Curliers already on the board, I'm sure that won't be an issue.
So Mia gets to rip the Pokestop here, hits the Mirage Gate, the Switch Cart, and the Pokégear. It's raining Lost Box right now. I can't lie.
It is.
This is why we chose to highlight this matchup, because I thought it was very interesting. Now, whilst we mentioned before that obviously Gardevoir can't actually really choose to punch with these Screamtail and Drifloon attackers that require damage counters to be placed on themselves. This leaves Gardevoir with its main game plan into Iron Hands being punch it with EX for 190 and use Monkey Dory, hopefully twice to place 30 damage counters, 3 damage counters, for 30 damage on this Iron Hands, so that you can go from 190 to 220 with one Monkey Dory to the next Monkey Dory doing 230 for knockout on the hands here. But as Fifi has failed to bench the Monkey Dory last turn, as he was sort of struggling to get his board set up, this means that he will not have access to 2 Monkey Dory abilities in the following turn. So I think right now Fifi's really just sort of hoping that Mia's not going to be able to amp him here. But I'm also quite sure that he definitely feels like he's getting amped.
Definitely getting amped.
Yeah, he's definitely getting amped. The pressure's really on for Fifi here. But again, this is why we highlighted this game, because we wanted to showcase the real ability Gardevoir has to just keep its cool and just all you have to do is take the correct line. and relax a little bit. Lost Box is not the most consistent deck in the world, especially when it has to play through things like Iono. So
Mhm.
we see Mia here finally hit 7 in the Lost Zone, and thanks to her manual attaches in the previous turn, she's feeling pretty good about her board setup here. She gets to fire off this Mirage Gate and set up not only the Sableye, but also the Iron Hands. She can also feel quite confident that this Klefki is not going to be sitting in the active at the end of Fifi's next turn, considering that Fifi has no possible way to one-shot this Iron Hands EX, and well, he does, but if he chooses to do so, Mia will immediately clap back
Yeah,
by
we'll
taking 2
definitely just
prizes with Sableye.
clean him up with Sableye. So that would be pretty bad if he just chooses to use the Drift Loom. So we'll see what Fifi can concoct in the face of this Iron Hand. Spear is going to go ahead and take 2 prize cards and really apply some pressure to this pretty unchecked Gardevoir board beforehand. And this is where Guardy really needs to hit some key pieces.
So as we discussed, obviously Fifi's unable to double Monkey Dory ability, the Adrena Brain, this turn. So we're going to have to see what Fifi chooses to go with here. Obviously firing off the refinements. Has to fire the
Spins the
PokéStop
Pokestop.
again, which is
Fifi
unreal for
does love this
Gardevoir.
Pokestop.
He does. Well, I mean, hey, you got to do what you got to do, right? You'd rather
That's
that
it.
than
That's it.
completely whiff pass, right? So
Hmm.
I didn't actually quite catch what Fifi grabbed off of that Pokestop here. It might have been the counter catcher, but we see he's
I think
deciding
it
a
was an
card
Earthen
to play.
Vessel.
Oh,
Yeah, I
yep,
think
it
this
could
is
be the
this
vessel.
Earthen Vessel he's deciding. This Earthen Vessel was actually a really good hit off of Pokestop. You can thin out another Psychic at some point, and you can also tutor out a Dark Energy for your deck for that Monkey Dory we were talking about. It's pretty crucial. It looks like it's already holding the Dark Energy, but it is extremely crucial for Fifi to get the Monkey Dory with a Dark Energy down this turn to try and start making some power plays with some Gardevoir EX attacks and things like that.
Now, while we mentioned that Mia's Lost Zone Box Turbo list doesn't really have any way to one-shot threat this Gardevoir EX, or really threaten this Gardevoir EX, I should say, rather. The problem is that, as we saw earlier, now, while she milled it, Mia is playing the Iron Bundle. So whilst Klefki shuts off this ability while it's in the active, obviously Fifi can't just leave this Klefki in the active at the end of the turn because it will get amped for 2 prizes, which is definitely not what Fifi wants to see. So Fifi
Definitely not.
recognizes here that he's not actually going to knock out the Iron Hands this turn. It's not possible, or even if it was, it is
It's
not
not
worth it.
advantageous.
It's not advantageous to do so, no. It's actually going to leave him in a worse board state. So Fifi has instead opted for the Gust the Sableye here, so that he can, if he had to, maybe blow up the Iron Hands next turn. But really, more so what this does is pushes the Iron Hands to the bench, and he gets to use the Adrena Brain here that he did manage to set up from the Monkey Dory to place the 3 damage counters on the Iron Hands. So basically, Fifi has set up here to ask Mia to either be raw holding boss right now to take 2 prizes on something, or recycle this
Or
Iron Bundle, which we can see her checking for now.
yeah, it looks like Mia's going to go ahead and rot in this Iron Bundle at some point, which is pretty crucial. So this 30 damage on this Iron Hands is pretty important from the Adrena Brain. I think it's by far the best place Fifi could have put it. It puts Iron Hands, it's pretty much checks Iron Hands to be in range of Miracle Force next turn and puts a little bit of pressure back on Mia. And at least forces her to find a card like Switch Cart to heal it off, which, you know, but judging by the fact that the Iron Hands went straight into the active, you can probably guess she has a Switch Card in hand to try and heal that off. And then I'm assuming Fifi next turn will try and set up a second Monkey Dory and go ahead and take out that Iron Hands with Miracle Force. Or he might have a better play lined up.
Absolutely. So, like we mentioned, I believe we mentioned, the unfortunate part of the Monkey Dory is that it needs the Dark Energy attached to it, which is not really a big deal in terms of the fact that obviously the whole point of Gardevoir is you use the ability to Psychic Embrace to your Psychic type Pokemon, but obviously you can't use Psychic Embrace to attach Dark Energy. So, what this really means is that when you miss benching the Monkey Dory and attaching to it, that means that you are gated in the next turn as to how many Monkey Dory you can actually set up to be able to use the abilities, right? So Next turn, Fifi might be able to set up the second one if he has to, which it does indeed look like he's going to have to since Mia was able to switch cart this Iron Hands. I'd say I definitely agree with you that watching the Iron Hands move into the active, I think it tells you one of two things. I think it either tells you that Mia's holding boss's orders immediately and she's just going to raw go for it, or it tells you that she's going to switch cart this Iron Hands out of the active to heal it off, to put Fifi in a pretty disadvantageous board state. So we see Mia's moved the Iron Bundle to the front of her discard pile here. It seems she's just figuring out which other Pokemon or energy she would like to recycle back into the deck here. And she has hit 10 in the Lost Zone, so honestly, she doesn't really care about Lost Zoning cards anymore, which means that obviously Fifi's Klefki and Fluttermane lines are well and truly useless, and particularly in the face of this Iron Hands, as we have mentioned. So Mia's just setting up her deck here a little bit. This Pal Pad's really good. Her deck is super thin, so she's really here just putting these Colress back into the deck so that she can say, I really don't care if you Iono me. I have a really high odds of finding the Colress here and hitting the play that I'd like to close the game, essentially. So
here we see Iron Bundle to
yep.
push up the Klefki. This is probably going to be Mia's next Thank you very much target. Head to 2 prize cards, and this is looking now like a pretty dicey situation for Gardevoir. That Fifi is down 5-2, but anyone who's played Gardevoir or has seen Gardevoir play knows that it can come back from almost any position, in the right hands, of course. So it'll be pretty interesting to see how Fifi can come back here.
So we see Fifi fire the Arven here. I think he probably would have preferred this to be Iono, but I'm just trying to quickly remember or jog my memory as the game has gone on here. I believe Fifi has actually milled quite a few Ionos in this game.
He has.
Which he had to do. He simply had no option. However, this is a pretty heads-up play to grab this Bravery Charm, right, Walker?
Yep. So he's going to grab the Bravery Charm here, and its most likely target is going to be to come down onto the Ralts. Fifi has recognized here that Mia's best way to take the last 2 prizes, assuming that this Iron Hands actually dies, is going to be through Radiant Greninja's Moonlight Shuriken to kill these 2 Gardevoir lines. However, by attaching the Bravery Charm to this Ralts, it means that Mia is most likely not going to be able to take 2 prizes with it, as I think he might be out of Lost Vacuum at this point, but I'm not too sure on that one.
I can confirm that Mia is unfortunately out of Lost Vacuum. So there's actually 2 in the Lost Zone, and the first Vacuum that she used, she chose to Lost Zone her other Vacuum in hand. So this is quite a heads-up play from Mia, because the Bravery Charm is not commonly, or the Bravery Charm's purpose in the deck is not necessarily to attach it to a Ralts to prevent a Greninja.
No,
I also think it's important.
But it can be used.
Of course. So this is where Fifi's correctly identified that he does not need to Drifloon or Screamtail this game, and he does not need the Bravery Charm to increase that. So as we see here, we see Fifi's just shortcut used the double Monkey Dory, so obviously he's attached 2 energy to the Curlier with the Psychic Embrace to put 40 damage on it. And then use the double Adrena Brain to move that straight up to the Iron Hands, which sets up for perfect knockout. So we see here, this is where he actually does drop the Bravery Charm on the Ralts, and he is able to take the knockout here on the Iron Hands. I also think it's important to note that the other option Fifi technically had was to health gate in a different way by actually evolving the Curlier into the Gardevoir EX, but obviously he loses refinement from his board then, so he would rather not have that happen.
It opens him up pretty badly to a Roxanne from Mia if he evolves out of all of his refinements. So, I mean, Fifi doesn't need much, but I think keeping 1 refinement on board and knowing that she's out of Lost Vacuum, just chucking the Bravery Charm on the Ralts is definitely a stronger play.
Now, obviously, we're aware that Mia has lost Zone the Roxanne this game, but obviously the purpose of this video also... No, that's fine. The purpose of this video, obviously, is to highlight the lines that each of these players are actually going for. So that way, we're hoping that you'll be able to use some of this thinking in your own games when you decide to take Lost Zone Box or Gardevoir to the next League Challenge or League Cup in your area. So I think this matchup has been really, really interesting because I think anyone who was sitting down and watching this game, myself included, I definitely felt like, wow, like I think Lost Zone Box has managed to clinch this matchup despite it actually having flopped to being unfavorable. In the past,
Hmm,
I would say that Lost Zone Box had probably a favorable matchup into Gardevoir, but with
I would agree.
Gardevoir getting the likes of Monkey Dory, the matchup has really turned on its head, to be honest.
It
It's
has.
part of the
It has.
reason why it's actually part of the reason why Lost Zone Box doesn't play the dark attackers like Roaring Moon, because they just like it. The deck just can't justify blowing up a Pokemon with like Frenzied Gouging and other matchups, and then getting Monkey Doried or getting picked off by like a Dragapult Phantom Dive attack, which
Yep.
makes it really difficult to include that card in the list. Obviously, Lost Zone Box doesn't have to declare Frenzy Gouging into Gardevoir EX because it's weak to Dark. It can declare the what's the other one? Calamity Storm and
Calamity
discard the
Storm. Calamity
Pokestop
Storm.
for knockout. But unfortunately, just with how the meta is shaped up, this format, Lost Zone Box just simply can't choose to include it.
Yeah.
So here we see Mia has actually used both flower selectings, and it looks like she has unfortunately whiffed this final attack here.
It doesn't look
Fifi's
like she has a lot going on in her hand, unfortunately, which is pretty rough.
I think what this highlights as well really well is despite the fact that Fifi was in like a really disadvantageous spot, like I mean
He
for
was down
starters,
5-2.
he's down 5-2, and Gardevoir is like Gardevoir if it can avoid it is never choosing to spin Pokestop every turn. So I think that's
Yeah.
like really telling to how weak Fifi's hand was, or how much more he felt he needed to do on his turns that he didn't get to choose whether or not he spun that stop or not.
Mm.
I mean, Fifi's actually used a criminally low amount of Iono in this game, and unfortunately, Mia here has obviously whiffed an attack. But I believe what I was getting into is that I believe this is due to Fifi's really like cool, calm, and like collected and calculated plays that he's made against Mia.
Mm.
So here we
So
see.
I think this is game actually. I think Fifi, despite being on 3 prizes, is just going to be able to retreat into the Flutter Mane and use 2 Mucky pings. So you can put 60 on the active and put them both on the Comfey, and then just KO the active for game. And Mia's going to run out of Pokemon in play, and Fifi's actually going to clinch this one despite being down 5-2 in prize cards.
Thank you very much for dissecting this game with me, Walker. We did this all in one take,
No
so
worries.
it is slightly scuffed.
Yep.
But I hope you guys learned something, and we really enjoyed talking about this matchup and highlighting one of our local cup games. So we'd like to bring you more
Sure.
content like this. So if you'd like to see more, jump on in. If you have anything else to say, Walker, now's your time.
I'm all good. See you later, guys.
No worries. Catch you in the next one.